All right, everybody, we're back here once again, journeying through the cities told to us by the great Khan and by Marco Polo. There was one part that I wanted to read that I thought was interesting. I have also thought of a model city from which I deduce all the others, Marco answered. It is a city made only of exceptions, exclusions, incongruities, contradictions. If such a city is the most improbable, by reducing the number of abnormal elements, we increase the probability that the city really exists. So I have only to subtract exceptions from my model, and in whatever direction I proceed, I will arrive at one of the cities which, always as an exception, exist. But I cannot force my operation beyond a certain limit. I would achieve cities too probable to be real. And I think it's kind of this whole idea of maybe we can say that what is reality, but maybe reality is a feeling. Maybe it can fit and comply with all the conditions of being something that is true, but at the same point in time, be something that is genuine. I mean, if it did fit both conditions, then it would merely be a matter of how you looked at it and whether or not life actually followed this pattern, which was random, or if it was genuine. And I think that one of the biggest reasons why people would steer away from life being this pattern of things that are genuine is because it gives you a sense of control. But the funny thing about things being genuine is that it has to be natural at the same time. And so you're sort of forcing this idea that things aren't necessarily true unless you're being you. And I'm trying to point out that maybe both things can be true, so it's just a matter of how you look at it, kind of thing. What if all things that were genuine themselves just sort of fell in the same line of being things that were true also? Just, kind of like his whole idea here of these cities. I would achieve cities too probable to be real. It's almost like it makes too much sense. It's too planned. It's perfect. You know what I mean? But being genuine isn't necessarily perfect unless you're saying that it's a perfect truth. Then genuine can fall into some descriptive narrative that contains perfection itself. And I feel like as we're sort of navigating this whole idea, it's, kind of reducing things to optimism or pessimism. But there's always the mind that tries to make everything as gray as possible. This idea that there is truth and it's beyond everybody's control. But that truth has rules and laws, and it favors nobody. Which ultimately leads to their own sort of, repercussions of reality as well, Everybody gets the same reality check every week. Maybe our minds are just built to try to equalize and balance and come up with things, but at the same point in time, we can't escape the idea that we have a self, and so then we try to penetrate our own ideas of this balancing act to give ourselves more favor. But again, here I'm proposing this idea that maybe what is true is what is the most genuine. And again, being genuine is sort of a funny thing because you can't be acting. basically, is 100% sort of the conditional motive, right? So it almost always instigates a place of newness, of there being this sort of emotion that is involved with it, right? But I just sort of pose that question, what if all life was just genuine? So I've tried to understand what maybe this emotion is. If things are genuine, then it has a self. It has sort of an identity. And it has to portray itself in a likeness that other people know it to be. And again, if life is like this, and if it was, would we not be able to see the differences if it was just something that was just because? But I try to imagine the emotion of this thing. It's flow, and I thought like water, being a thing that travels. And what if water was an emotion? Does it always feel the same? It takes us to places where the sand washes out. All there are pebbles. There's fish, there's crabs, there's shells. All the different scents that water contains. Maybe if you look at us deep enough, water is the only thing that remains. And I thought maybe this emotion just rises and falls like water. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hotter. And I thought that maybe if I was to say what the emotion of life is, the identity of life, if I was being tested, if this was a quiz, maybe I would just say life is water. And water is genuine. Water will tell you what's in it. And water can almost be anything. But just like the truth, just like history, water flows from form to form that we see. And its transition is smooth. And even if it changes just like that, it still loses nothing. It still tells a story the entire time. Maybe all stories are like water. Books are like little turgor cells bound in little woody places. And we grow according to how genuine we are. Because after all, enough water in one place is about as equal of a gain that there ever could be. Because the more water that's there, the more it's life's identity. And if all life is just what is genuinely, then life always acknowledges life. as much as there's a trick to it, the only trick would be being the most genuine. Maybe there is a trick to it. And maybe it has to do with water too. As honesty seems to be just being humble, it seems like you're letting the truth be. But if I'm being bold, am I not being honest? Maybe that's being genuine. Genuine about there being want. Genuine about life. I have to say this in the exact right tone. And timing is everything. Remember this moment right now. The earth, more often than not, is not this habitable. It's too genuine. I can sense minor changes in the air. Maybe something I don't wish to hear is, and something I want to hear isn't. What is and what is not out of my control? And to what degree can I even say that there's a degree to anything? Is boldness incorrect by any measure? What does it induce? The idea that being first gives a better position? Bold, a very competitive word. Almost controlling. Saying many things without saying them. And if I'm being honest, do I not believe? And if I don't believe, am I being genuine? So maybe belief is a part of life. Maybe we have to have beliefs. Maybe, like I was saying yesterday, that whole idea of identifying power and structure. where we reduced everything down to a single idea. Maybe the only thing that everything plans for is belief. Maybe that's all we have when we reduce everything down to one thing. It's important to see. It's important to see this. This idea of everything that could happen and everything that does happen. The idea that we can learn many lessons from a single story, not saying anything about the lessons themselves. And that we can make connections and talk about them to other people that hear the stories as well. Maybe courage is the idea of believing, because then we're falling for our own beliefs. And we always know that the fall is hard. Especially when we come across that one thing. And all these ideas, they lead to one thing. Do things come from power? I believe in power. Pain is only a memory, and memories are only genuine.